start recording. Excellent. Is it back?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I was gonna restart it otherwise. Um, we had these flags here as well. That was kind of Hassan's stuff. Now, Anna sent me a lot of these tents and stuff. And we also had these obelisks. And these are all things that I concepted quite quickly, but we still had made. And I did a lot of things on these, actually. Like, these had a lot of more edges around them. And they had edges going all the way down here. These had more loops going around them. So they had, like, quite a few loops, like here and here. And then there was a few more in-betweens along this. And these ones had in-betweens all the way up here as well. And they had caps on the bottom and things. And, you know, this, again, like, this is very nitpicky. It's not a bad model. It's very nitpicky, but I just reduced everything. Because even now, after I added all those edge loops, they're like a few thousand. And if we have like a bunch of them, or if we put like 10 of them in any spot or something like that, or have them far away, that's going to be like 10,000 or 15,000 just for like a few small props. And that's my nitpick on those. Just be aware of keeping your poly count low, getting rid of edges you don't need, faces you never see, making UVing easier for you, not having engons and stuff like that, and just basic fundamentals, right? And I'm not saying, obviously I'm not targeting anyone. Like I kind of almost seems like I am, because I'm looking just at Anna's and Hassan's assets, but I literally told them, don't worry about it, let me do it, because I do it quick. And at this point I would say actually start worrying about it. Just make sure you model it all right, then UV it yourself, and I can show you all of these, including is it that one? Novella audio components selected. What? Let me restart that. Alright, so if you select all of these, you can see the UVs. And I literally just have not laid them out yet. I thought I had. Oh no, this is the horns. So if I select everything but not the horns. Right, so I just threw them in, right? I just threw them in. It's not like, it's not beautiful, it's not well laid out or thought through. I just threw them in because for props like these, we're just going to hand paint them. We're just gonna paint them in Substance. We're gonna use only base color. I have a video on it in our art chat somewhere up here. Somewhere, where is it? I don't know. We have it somewhere. There's a video. I can share it. And it shows you exactly how to just model really basic stylized stuff and still looks within the style, right? So pack these as much as you like. Get a bunch of them. It's just base color. Let me show you what I did with, and I'm still doing actually, with the bridges and stuff that Sawyer was sending me. So these ones, because they're gonna be more part of the cities, part of the structures, and also they're going to be they're also using very similar materials every time. It's always kind of stone, wood, metal, stone, wood, metal, right? And they're all quite similar. I've been putting them on separate ones, but I think what I would like us to do for this, and it's a good thing that Sawyer kept suggesting this to me, is we can create trim sheets for them so that each of them can have their own UV space, but they're still going to use the same texture. They're going to overlap because the texture is going to be pre-made, and we can make those trim sheets either by hand, so Sawyer can either offer some by hand, and we can also utilize some of the existing textures that Luke has made and just pop those within the trim sheet and have them as something we can use. And we can essentially have a 2K trim sheet of Sawyer's, of Luke's textures and any that Sawyer makes, and we can just start popping this stuff on it. And that's why I haven't worried too much about doing any special UV layouts or anything for these, because what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna after I go through and check them and do stuff to them, which I won't have to do anymore because you can do this, you would essentially put them on the trim sheet as you're modeling them as well, and you would texture them as you're modeling them essentially because the texture is pre-made. So for you, Jack, and for Sawyer, I would say this is probably how this workflow would work. And something interesting, I think this is probably the last thing I'll say before I show you scaling and stuff, because I don't even think I've scaled these yet. For Engons, something interesting that Sawyer said yesterday that I've never thought about before is, for this game, right, when it's exported into Unity, it gets triangulated, right?
Just triangulize it.
Yeah, and we can UV it, especially with these very basic low poly shapes, we can UV it before cleaning it up. So essentially, after we finish everything with these assets, after we finish their UVs and their textures from the trim sheets and everything, you can just go mesh cleanup. And that's fine, because that's what Unity is going to do anyway.
Stefan,
Yeah.
hit Control-Z on that for a second.
Yeah.
Highlight the whole thing like you've done, and then go on to Mesh. And then just hit Triangulate.
Triangulate. Okay. Interesting. Did that do the same?
It takes a few steps out. Yeah, it does exactly the same thing.
Oh, it just hits triangulate. Interesting. Yeah, there you go. And that's prep. So we can just do that. We don't, if you're doing big stone stuff and using lots of bevels to get stylized looks, you can just do that as well.
Huh.
Okay, so that's pretty much. Let me just quickly jump back to the file I was doing before to show about scaling. But pretty much that's it. That's the stuff for making little props for Anna and Hassan, and the stuff for making city stuff for Sawyer and Jack. Whilst I'm getting stuff for the scaling, you guys got any questions?
So I wasn't here unfortunately when Sawyer did his trim sheet tutorial thing. So I may need a bit of a rundown on that.
That's fine. Yep.
Unless there's like a video you guys can point me towards, that'd be great. So I can keep on referring back to it.
There is one, yeah, there is. We can
awesome.
Send you.
And so, from what I understand of the stuff in C stuff you've just explained, is we'll go through the normal process of modeling like we would normally, and with the trim sheet, we try and put it all in one trim sheet, or is it just ordinary UVing? I got kind of confused when you mentioned that bit.
I'm leaving that to Sawyer, and Sawyer, you can talk with Luke as well to see how you can use his textures, but essentially what you can do is you can create essentially a 2K trim sheet, because the textures that Luke has been making, I've been exporting as 512s, and they still look all right. So in a 2K map, 4 512s will take up one corner, right? So you can utilize the rest of the 3 corners to make a 1K trim sheet, or if you want to keep it 512, you can even make 512 trim sheets, and then that's even less space. So I would say do a 1K for now. Do 1K trim sheets for, yeah, because 512, you know, if you're, I'm wondering. Do 1K, because you might want to do some patterns, you might want to do some engraving and stuff. So yeah, like you can put some of the stone and wood and whatever else we're using from Luke in one corner. Like you can just tile 4 of them, and then you can make whatever trim sheet you need to make for whatever is going on. You can just stick it on in the rest of the corners, and you can just pop the UVs on as you're going. And yeah, there is a video for it. It's on the YouTube. I'll share that as well. Let me make a note. So,
brilliant, thanks.
Text and trim vid. I'll send those. Okay, scaling. So there's two ways to do the scaling. One is to use a reference of the character's size. Another is to use one of the buildings as a reference. But the easiest way to do it is you make a cube, right? A little bit bigger. Well, don't scale it up. Just make a cube. Put its pivot point to the bottom. Stick it on the ground, right? And then make its y-axis 150. And that is how tall the player is. He's a little stouter, but I believe that's how tall the player is, right? And now you can see that these are quite small. So you can grab these, you can group them, and you can say, how big is this banner going to be? Maybe it's going to be a little bigger than the player. Maybe it's going to stick in the ground a little bit, so we want it this big, right? This one probably could be like a lot bigger or something than the player, because you're going to probably see the player from this distance or something, right? And now you can see, okay, well, that's bloody massive. That's a bit too big. You can make these smaller. For these like tusks and stuff, I wanted them to kind of stick out of the ground, kind of what was that fucking game called? The Hyperlight Drifter, right? They had like bones and giant skeletons sticking out of the ground. So you could probably, I was like thinking that's too big, but you could probably like imagine what the scene's gonna be like, because this is the player, right? So that's easy way to essentially figure out what the size of the player is and how you're gonna see stuff, how far away you're gonna see stuff from. All right. So that's that. Is there anything else? Anything else I need to show? Exporting. Okay, exporting. So let me go to these ones again. So after I've scaled them up and I've put them all in the centers for how I'm gonna export them, here's a really easy way to export multiple files at the same time. So first you want to just save, make sure you've saved. Then you want to select everything that you want to export, and you want to press either Shift P, right? Now, if any of the assets you're exporting are part of a group, so let's say this is like some kind of assets made up of free bits, you don't want to select the free assets, you want to select the group itself, because that's going to export on its own, and then you unparent the group itself. But let's say we don't have that, because we don't want to complicate things. You select everything you want to export, you press Shift P, and that takes it out of all the groups they had, right? And then you want to name it. So if it's a prop, you go prop underscore whatever the name is. And you should have done this before, not now, but you would have named it prop underscore whatever. And if it's an environment prop for either the terrain or buildings or cities, you go prop underscore env, env underscore whatever it is. Like that. You do something like that. Select everything, Shift P, and then go File, Game Exporter. So Game Exporter should be here by default. If it's not, you go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager, you just type in Game, and auto load the Game FBX Exporter, right? So it's gonna open up this little window. You wanna make sure smoothing groups and tangents and binormals is ticked on. You're not doing animation, so skinning and blend shapes is turned off. You open up your settings. Up here at the top, you choose export selection. Down here in the settings, you choose export to multiple files, right? It has options for move to origin as well if you have stuff around the place, because I know some people like using that. This stuff you don't need to worry about, it's preset. And then you choose where you want to save it. I'm going to make a new folder on the desktop and call it blah. Choose that file, click choose, and if you want to as well, if you haven't put the prefix of props or something there yet, you can put a prefix in here, and I'm just going to put in test so you see how it works. And then you just click export, and it's going to export everything. And if I open up the folder called blah now, you can read my emails if you wish. There's nothing important on my emails, right? Okay, yeah, nothing sensitive. Good. Fucking recording. It's fine. I'm only sending it to you guys. This isn't gonna go public. And there's my folder that I exported to, and here is all the props with the test and the pre. Everything is separate, right? Now, let me just show you one last thing. Like I always say, one last thing all the time. And I'm gonna group some of these, and I'm gonna call this group test. And let me go back here and just delete all of this. And now, instead of selecting everything like this, because that's going to select the props inside this group, I'm going to go from here and select them like this. So it's still obviously selecting the props that are going to be in here, but it's selecting the group instead. And now, and I believe actually, even if let's just select them like that. The group is here. I'm not going to select the group. I'm just going to select everything like I did before, right? But 3 of them are in a group. And I believe that this is going to do something else. So now when I export and I open up, yeah, I have a folder called group test. I don't have a folder, I don't have a file called props obelisk 123. I have a file with all these 3 of them in there called group test. So that's why I have to take everything outside of their groups before exporting them. This is useful because sometimes you have assets made of multiple objects and you want to export those as a single object. But instead of having to go through here and be like, oh, these groups and these assets, you can just still highlight everything and it's automatically going to pick up the fact that 3 of them are in a group, meaning they have to be all together in a single asset. And that is the reason why when I showed Game Exporter to Matt in 2nd year, I couldn't get it working because it kept doing that and it looked like it didn't work. So there's some history for you. Right, that's everything. That's everything. Optimization, UVs, triangulation, scaling, different texture methods, Game Exporter, done. I don't need to do it anymore. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll do.
All right. Excellent. That's it. I'm going to stop recording.